famed author Clive Cussler.
The hero Dirk Pitt.
The Mediterranean Caper. Episode 1. Powerful Dirkings.
And now everything is officially on the air.
Oh, okay.
We're live to the official Dirk Pitt podcast.
Oh, you have a hard copy.
Yes, I did. I have a wonderful library, and they had this. The first edition, or the first of many Dirk Pitt novels. They have no right to have this just on hand. It seems obscene.
Well, they're a little popular. There's, like 700 billion Dirk Pitt novels in circulation right now, so...
Well, maybe it took a Bible off a shelf.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a bad thing. I'm sure they didn't sacrifice any of the works of Shakespeare to keep it on in the library, space-wise.
I went the audiobook route, but I do have 10 various Dirk Pitt books just sort of from all through the series that I've acquired from thrift stores and bookshops.
I have a suggestion that came to me from a friend for one of the titles, could be titles. I don't know if you're familiar with the term clusterfuck.
Oh,
As in, like, multiple things go wrong at the same time. Clusterfucks. With the U, like an octothorpe or a star or something.
That might be like a bonus episode.
We're kind of starting in a hole because the main character's named Dirk Pitt. Did he even like the guy when he wrote him? He named him Dirk.
I don't know. That seems like a very manly 1970s name to give a main character. You want that short, punchy name.
I suppose neither one of us can criticize names. You're named like one of Sarah Palin's children, and I'm named after an authoritarian first lady, Nancy Reagan.
What's this about Sarah Palin?
You're named like one of Sarah
Palin
Palin's children. Trigger, Topper. It kind of fits.
Topper is short for Christopher. I acquired it at some point in the 90s, and I actually kind of liked it, so it stuck.
Oh, it's really cool. and I'm jealous because the name Nancy is just totally... I should have white hair, be smoking a cigarette, and playing bingo someplace.
Yeah, because the only other Nancy that I know off the top of my head was our old neighbor Nancy, who was this elderly lady from Nova Scotia who would bring us lobster soup every now and then and watch our kids, and she had 2 little dogs. And
oh, she sounds fantastic. Lobster soup. Hey.
Oh, she was the best. We couldn't stop her bringing us food. So Nancy's, there's worse things to be associated with than the best neighbor we ever had.
The best neighbor you ever had? I'll take that.
Welcome to the first episode of Cussler Hustlers, the only Dirk Pitt podcast that I'm aware of. We're going to find the rest and take them out. I am your host, Topper, and here with me is my other host, Nancy.
Hi. Hi, my name is Nancy, and I am currently a suburban mom, leading a very boring life, but I've previously had multiple jobs, working for the government, working in television, and one time working for the Russian mafia, unknowingly, but then kind of had to hang in with it. So
we're definitely going to explore that later at some point, because I'm pretty sure Dirk ends up fighting the Russian mafia.
It's been terrifying. It was a lot of fun.
As long as the pay was worth it.
Oh, it was terrible. It was absolutely bonkers terrible. But it was also dangerous. Yeah. So there's that. And my kids know nothing about this. So that's fun. According to them, I could just make sandwiches.
Make sure they don't listen to this. We'll be fine.
Oh, yes.
I am also very boring. I work for the government right now up in Canada, and talking about strange books is where I get most of my excitement from. That's no fun. I'm going to edit that out, too.
Oh. Hey, all of my social interactions are parasocial through podcasts, so I totally understand.
Oh, God, same here. I don't know how many podcasts I listen to right now. I think my current list on Podbean, it says 60, around 60, but I'm pretty sure half of them don't release episodes anymore, and I've gotten rid of so many of them over the years when I'm just no longer into that sort of thing. But a couple of podcasts in particular are what gave me the inspiration to start this. Namely, I listen to a lot of Stephen King podcasts. Some of them go over the Stephen King movies, some of them go over the Stephen King books, but one of them in particular, Dairy Public Radio, is sort of a book club read-along style, where they will go through like chapters 1 through 19 of this book, and they'll talk about it, and they'll tell the listeners what they're listening to next week so they can read along. And the podcast Kill James Bond, the first season reviewed all the James Bond movies from the perspective of how xenophobic and jingoistic and militaristic they were, and what they said.
James Bond? There might be some issues with masculinity and culture.
Not in the slightest. And they review what that says about the age at the time. And now in season 2, they're doing all these other spy franchises. So Jason Bourne and Man from U.N.C.L.E. and movies like that. And they absolutely tear them to shreds.
That is the best thing to do. I know Alison Caldwell-Kelly is on that, and we both are in love with her. I just had a thought and went right out of my head. Introvert panic. The wolves are at the door. I see tiny feet outside of my door.
I can hear a cat scratching at mine.
Well, I started with like every white woman my age. I started drinking wine during lunch and got into My Favorite Murder, and then I've slowly been radicalized into labor podcasts. And I took a lot of labor history in college. If history has taught us anything, everything is a labor dispute. But going into left-wing podcasting and hearing all these great different takes and people being so informed on a daily basis about workers' rights and how nobody, in at least in the United States, you are in a far more civilized country, and nobody bands together to protect the worker rights over here. And it's a lot of fun listening to something that gets me so filled with impotent rage. And then I have to do like a story time at the second grade class.
Yeah, it's amazing how many podcasts I listen to purely because they fill me with rage.
It's the best.
The more informed I am about world events, just the angrier I get. So I also have a lot of podcasts that are just pointlessly silly and stupid because I have to balance out those urges.
That makes a lot of sense. I don't do that. I go for full tilt boogie and get kicked off the PTA every once in a while. I have to make sure I'm totally unhinged.
Yeah, excellent. You and my wife would get along.
I'd love to meet her sometime. My husband's also another introvert, so if I bring him in here, he'll add nothing to the conversation. He'll just be silent.
My wife is very much the extrovert. I am the introvert, except when it comes to one of whichever nerdy obsession I happen to be in right now. And lately it's Dirk Pitt, but also going back through every Godzilla movie, watching every Aliens movie and comic book and tie-in novel. Of course, the 5 or 6 Stephen King podcasts I listen to. Just finished rereading all of the Dark Tower novels, so my desk is horrible shrine to Stephen King right now. But I realized there was a gap in Dirk Pitt content on the internet, and we are here to fill that with silliness.
The public has been clamoring.
Yes.
We have answered the call.
I feel that the average Dirk Pitt reader has got to be at the age where now they're discovering podcasts.
Let's put a pin in that. The average Dirk Pitt reader is dead. We've had a pandemic. It took out all the old people.
Oh dear, this may have been a bad idea.
Oh, I've not considered the modern Dirk Pitt reader. I can't even begin to picture what that looks like. I guess that's us.
Now I worry that our takes on Dirk Pitt might turn off our target audience. This was a bad idea.
But I do love him. I do love him. He's a moment in time, and he's brought me much joy. And it is, to anyone listening, it's a fun adventure book. It is unabashedly unashamed, and it is just all out there, balls to the wall. And it's fiction. There's no harm in it. There's limited harm in it.
You can absolutely take enjoyment from something terrible.
Oh, yes. And like you said, it's not terrible. Do you have White Castle burgers out there?
No.
They're terrible, but they're wonderful at the same time. I don't think there's any nutritional value. It's made directly from Satan, brought to you on this earth. Small, grease-filled nodules of beef and bread and cheese, and it is both wonderful and terrible at the same time. And that's what this is. This is the trash food of books. You are not going to be a scholar reading these books, but you're going to have fun.
Yes.
There will be no vocabulary words learned.
This was absolutely his hobby, his obsession, because Clive Cussler, even before he started writing these, super duper into shipwrecks, into naval history, maritime history, into being a diver. And he was like, he didn't see any pulp action oriented around what he liked. So he decided to go out and write it and do it himself.
And he was brilliant at it. He churned these out night and day.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked through a lot of his issues with women. I hope he landed in a nice relationship. I don't know much about his personal life, but I hope he landed softly. And I'm sorry he didn't have the head of hair that he so clearly is jealous of in the books.
I feel we're definitely going to pass through his arc with women as we get through the Dirk Pitt novels, because they definitely start off as something that was written in the early 1970s. And we're going to get to that in, chapter 2, I believe. But for now, I suppose we should start with chapter 1.
Oh, yes.
The very first published Dirk Pitt novel. He wrote one before this, but it didn't get picked up. And that ended up being book number 4, Pacific Vortex.
Yes.
And we'll get to that later on.
Did you read the prologue?
Yes.
I've made notes.
Me too. I have my document here on the side.
Oh, I'm a messy bitch. I don't have a document. I've made underlines, a book I bought, and I have the library book for the good reading. The prologue. Take it away if you have a take on it.
The essential description of the prologue is you have a staff sergeant at a sleepy U.S. airbase in the Mediterranean, hanging out and doing nothing.
He's looking around.
Extremely tanned, fair-haired staff sergeant enjoying the breeze from his fan going up his pants.
Yes, it created quite a tingle. There is a whole paragraph about how he angled the air conditioner up his pants to create a refreshing tingle. What was happening to Clive when he wrote this?
He was very warm.
He must have been very warm and unrequitedly untingled.
This is definitely a sign that Clive Cussler gets lost in scene setting. He will pause the action completely just to describe something absolutely unimportant.
Completely.
But which adds
Yes.
adds character, I suppose you could say.
In some instances, it could add depth, but in this case, it's just that paragraph struck me as bizarre. The guy is bored. He's looking around. He's happy. He sees some workers off by the crane because they're working on Sunday. So this guy working at the air traffic control room is kind of a petty bitch, just a little bit. But he's working on Sunday and he's hot. Everybody gets cranky with this sultriness, this texture. This man with great description moves this air conditioner and tilts it seductively up his leg, and then it goes nowhere. then the air conditioner, foreshadowing, winds up on its side, and we all have to mourn the air conditioner. The portable air conditioner later on in the prologue.
The actual prologue does good scene setting because it describes the island. It describes him looking out at this Numa boat, Numa being the National Underwater Marine Agency, which is the real main character of every Clive Cussler novel. He describes the region they're in. They're in Greece. They're just north of Africa. It's hot. It's tropical. If you're the average American reader, you've only ever seen stuff like this on TV or in movies, so he's really putting you are in exotic location number 1.
Have you ever been inside of an air traffic control tower?
No.
I've been 2. I've been in one in Islip. I used to work many, many years ago for U.S. Customs, before it was ICE, before 9/11. So that gives you some kind of understanding of just how ancient my work history is with them. So I had the occasion on 2 occasions to go into the control towers. One, JFK air traffic control, bananas. You can barely step in the door. There's no room for anything. They don't want visitors. They don't want onlookers. Those people are busy. Islip is more like a rich people coming and going kind of airfield. They have their private planes, and it's more like this. And those guys will fall asleep. Those guys do have extreme bouts of boredom, and then they get occupied for minutes at a time. It's a great job.
I can imagine. The first airport I was ever in outside of Canada was Keflavik. Landing in that airport was just like landing in the one I left in a town in northern Canada. Like, it's not very big, no one's in a hurry. I'm not even sure if it was like secure, like it had the secure, non-secure section. Like, we got off our airplane, we grabbed a sandwich, and then we went out and saw the rest of Iceland. I'm like, oh, this is a nice chill start so far.
Once we were on a small plane, pre 9/11. It was very small, and the pilot was also the stewardess, by which he shouted. There was just a curtain.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a door, so the curtain was open, and he was like, "Passengers, are you ready for lunch?" And then he threw oranges at us.
I've been on a few flights like that.
And then we had some real interesting weather. We both thought we were going to die. We kind of nosedived a bit.
I blame the oranges.
He really got distracted. I've got to say, it was directly after that. He was trying to make a joke. It could have gone very poorly.
All right, so we have our staff sergeant. He is chilling out. He is bored. He has a nice tingle going on. And then he spots a World War I biplane coming up over the hill in super slow motion, and it just begins opening fire. It shoots out all the windows on the conning tower. It loops around. It blows up all of the modern American fighter jets and the C-130s. Everything's on fire. People are running around and screaming. The staff sergeant has been shot. The air conditioner has been shot. Brady Field calls Mayday.
Take a moment of silence for the air conditioner.
And this leads us into Chapter 1.
Yes, and Dirk is flying with his bestie, Al Guardino, who goes to the restroom shortly after things begin.
I always thought it was Giordino.
Oh, okay.
The audiobook says Giordino.
Okay, Giordino. Let's stick with that.
I believe that would be the Italian way of pronouncing that.
Because I'm on the East Coast of the United States, mid-Hudson, and my father was, my father's name was Nunzio.
Oh, dear.
Very Italian. So there is...
I may bow to you on this, then.
There's a lot of different regional Italian accents that are not specific to Italy at this point anymore. So whatever pronunciation you want to go with is not going to be wrong.
I think I'm basing this entirely on DiGiorno pizza, because that has the GIO that I'm used to.
That is the school of linguistics that we should go with. DiGiorno is Chef Boyardee.
Al DiGiorno. Okay, so we have Dirk Pitt and his heterosexual life partner, Al.
Who knows him better than any man or woman?
Oh, goodness, yes. Do we get into some very interesting description right away of Dirk describing Al and Al describing Dirk? And I had to write down a few choice sentences, and I might drop the clips from the audiobook into this.
Oh, lovely.
Which is Al looking at Dirk and talking about how women were awed in his presence, and how Dirk loved women's company, but not their subterfuge, their lies.
Yes. I don't get from reading this that Mr. Clive had a great time with ladies. I think he had a bone to pick with them, maybe his style of communicating, perhaps what he thought was appropriate to do when meeting a woman, colored the way he saw and experienced them.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we know, Dirk just forcibly makes out with a lady? No, let's roll back. A woman meets him on the beach while he's unconscious. Mr. Low Tide, lying on the beach, begins his seducting attempt on, what is her name? Tessa?
Terry. Let's not skip ahead too hard, because we have to get through a whole gunfight first before we get to...
Oh, forgive me, I forgot about that.
Before we get to how fascinating Chapter 2 is.
Chapter 2 is wonderful. Stay tuned.
Yes, I was going to let you take the lead on that one. I'm not sure I'm comfortable taking the lead on that one.
That's very safe. I applaud that.
Yes. Right now in Chapter 1, we have Dirk and Al who are flying in on their, flying duck, just like some big, fat, slow sort of cargo plane, because they're flying in to help take care of problems that the Numa boat, the first attempt, is having off of Brady Field. It's out there for a scientific expedition.
And they're radioed that the airfield is under attack by a World War I biplane. And they don't assume that somebody's poisoned a well or the CIA is doing some kind of wormwood type exercise. No, they just full on believe.
Well, they full on believe because Dirk can tell from the sound of the guy's voice that he's either walking away from the radio or he's dying. So Dirk instantly knows, oh my God, this man is dying. This must be true.
Human lie detector, he's very well calibrated.
It's very important that the main character's intuition is always 100% correct.
As is all of us walking around. I'm sure we all have that hit rate of 100%.
Yeah, damn right. If that were true for everyone, we'd all be the main character. But we can only have one main character, and that's Dirk.
He's all of our main characters. All hail Dirk.
Now, they realize that they have to come in and help this attack on Brady Field, but they are in a slow, basically flying boat, and all they have is a rifle on board. What plan do they come up with?
They swing in low, and somehow Al, he makes the plane that he's in do a loop, because Al gets knocked up in the bathroom. Oh, not that kind of knocked up. His head gets knocked and bashed around.
Yes. They decide that they're just going to open the side door, Al's going to hang out and start taking pot shots at a World War I biplane with a rifle.
Well, it's what Launchpad McQuack would do, and he flew the same plane.
I am so glad I am not the only person who thought of DuckTales. No, not DuckTales.
DuckTales helped me
Tailspin.
pass college.
It was Tailspin, specifically, with Baloo the Bear.
Oh.
You don't remember Tailspin?
Launchpad was introduced on DuckTales. Do not short shrift DuckTales.
No,
DuckTales
was... absolutely. DuckTales definitely was the first one. That was the best. Launchpad was a lot of fun. Tailspin, I believe Launchpad was on Tailspin a couple of times, but that was like this weird post-World War I 1930s non-specific tropical location. It was a very weird setting that it was in, and they're fighting air
I love that
pirates.
non-specific tropical location. You see that in Kong Island,
Yes.
or King Kong versus Godzilla, the new one. They go
Skull
back to
Island,
that set.
yeah.
They go back to that non-specific tropical Skull Island where people are dancing on tables. Ladies who are supposed to be of the seedy variety are dancing on tables, but in full bikinis.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like a wholesome, seedy vibe. Very, very sweaty. Very sweaty. It's a constant.
Yes.
It lives. That place is out there for all of us.
Yeah, so Dirk is manfully flying the plane around, white-knuckling it, doing things with the airplane that the airplane was never meant to do. They pull this loop to get in behind the World War I biplane, and Al manages to land a few shots on it. Nothing major, but it starts smoking.
Yes. He scares the plane away.
Yeah, but not before the plane, pulls up alongside, and the pilot, gives a little wave and a thumbs up, good job, you actually got me, and then he flies away. Must pay respects to your manly opponent.
Yes, very, very strong Nazi vibes. That is this is a Nazi World War I plane.
Yes.
That must be noted. So that is kind of in keeping with the lore
Well,
of that time.
it wouldn't be a Nazi plane because it was World War I. This was before the Nazis. That was the 1930s.
Yes, of course.
This was
German war, but
even though
a war of men.
They do mention Nazis a whole bunch later on. I think that's just because Germany. He calls them a Kraut a whole bunch of times.
If you're in modern times, you're not going to skip World War II. It's just that hangs heavy over everything. From writing about World War, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Knowing the fullness of history. So yes, I apologize. Not Nazi, but German and strong gentlemen fighting amongst each other vibes.
Oh God, yes. Nobility out the wazoo.
Agreed.
If there was one thing World War I Germans had, it was nobility.
Oh, and wounds and gangrene.
Yes. Well, yeah, you have to have the dueling scars. That's important.
Oh, that's so quaint, dueling. I wish we could bring that back. Now it's just, homicide.
I'm laughing in horror.
Wouldn't it be great if we could solve parking disputes? You probably don't have parking disputes.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Oh, okay.
We have cars in Canada,
I know you have cars, but I just figured there's 3 of you, and you've already worked out where everybody's going to park.
I find this racist.
Oh, I didn't even bring up the maple syrup.
All right, so they scare off the airplane. Al's injured because he got banged really hard in the bathroom. They, shake hands, they laugh, and then they land, and everybody on Brady Field is just running up and cheering and thanking them for their heroics. And thus ends Chapter 1. This is the introduction of Dirk Pitt to the world as just the manliest man ever, even though it was Al who did all the shooting and got injured.
Well, I don't take apart teamwork. A team's a team.
Absolutely.
And the way his hair is addressed in Chapter 1.
Uh-oh.
Major Dirk Pitt adjusted the headset on his thick black hair and turned slowly and cranked on the radio. Only men who care about hair talk about hair that way. He's first paragraph, first chapter, we're talking about his hair.
And he's also described right off the bat as leathery. So, he is outdoorsy, he is tanned, he is craggy. He is every cowboy hero archetype. You can definitely tell that this isn't James Bond. This isn't a man in a suit. This is a guy who gets out there and does hard work with his hand.
Well, yes, at this time there was kind of some pushback to James Bond as being a bit... Uh-oh, my evil poodle is making noise. I hope we don't hear him. There's a pushback to James Bond being a bit unmanly. The American or North American ideal of kind of being a lumberjack that can cut down people is kind of ingrained in us. We're more serious. We're not worried about suits and the way things look. We're just manly without effort.
Mm-hmm. We don't drink martinis.
No, that's what a sissy would do.
Yeah.
They drink crude oil straight from the earth. Not even the sweet kind.
Or just bourbon.
Now, Chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
It starts off with...
Oh, well, Dirk, he needs his water time.
Yeah, first it starts off with him laying awake in bed on Brady Field, after they landed and it got patched up and they were given rooms and they would talk with the colonel, I think it's the colonel, in the morning. But it's the middle of the night, or it's 4 a.m, and Dirk is laying in bed. And because Dirk has super intuition and knows everything, he recognizes that plane as the Hawk of Macedonia, the World War I flying ace, because he knows his history, because it's a yellow plane, I guess very identifiable markings on it. He's too wired to sleep, so he goes for a beach jog. He has this cute interaction with the guard on his way out. You can't leave without your identification. He's like, I don't have any identification. I just flew in. And then the guard realizes this is the person who flew in and saved the day and is just like super happy to meet him and shake his hand. Dirk goes for a swim. Dirk lays on the beach, and now we have our very first pit girl. And I have a whole bunch of notes here, but I will let you take it away.
Oh, thank you. Very brave. Dirk is asleep on the beach. It's not implicitly said, but I'm pretty sure it's low tide. And that smell is with us as we begin the scene. And this woman who's wearing a bikini, and it's described as a second skin. It's so tight, the bikini, as opposed to, some of our listeners aren't of the bikini wearing variety. Bathing suits aren't loose. Of course it's skin tight.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have a loose bathing suit. That's preposterous. You don't have to hang on to that, Clive Cussler. Yes, we know the skin tight bathing suit is in fact skin tight. That's how it works. Oh, even tighter than skin tight, like some kind of first aid measure. It's cutting off circulation.
I think she's wearing the wrong size, is what he's saying. She bought the wrong size.
So we've got a 20 pounds in a 10-pound sack.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's already in a state of distress, given her situation. She comes across this man she thinks is dead. He's hanging out. There's, fish flopping around him, seaweed. This bozo's asleep. Of course he's the sexiest man alive. She naturally thinks he's dead one minute and the ultimate XY icon in the next. And it is moments of conversation, just moments, before he's decided, upon hearing that she's a widow. He takes this information in and learned she's a widow of 9 years and assumed she's had no interaction with the male species between her widowhood the following 9 years to she just met him. Of course she's been celibate the whole time. He never even asks. He's just immediately outraged.
Super intuition.
Given that she's a beautiful woman who's been widowed.
Yes.
Yes, he's got this intuition. Because she was tearing up talking about her late husband. So naturally she's been trapped in a convent all those years.
Yep. With bikinis.
There is some cloistered nuns that have a lot of strange rules. I hope there is the bikini cloister out there.
That will also be a bonus episode once we find that book.
The bikini cloister, that's Patreon.
Excellent.
Like I said, he's decided, without asking, that she has wasted her 9 years, all of her 20s, pining for her lost love, and he seduces her and takes her right on the beach, ravishes her, barely moves her bathing suit. They have a grand time, and she just goes with it. Now, let's talk about how a woman who is not in a Dirk Pitt novel would feel coming across a man they think is dead, scares them by being undead, and then reacts to trying to be seduced on a beach. They would run screaming. This man would be in jail. Then he goes on to make assumptions about her, seduce her. I think what minutes pass between introductions to getting down to Pound Town, not a whole lot of time has elapsed. This man would be in jail.
Yes.
There's no consent happening.
Because how does he respond to finding out that she is still pining for her lost husband?
He takes that oddly personally. Like, whoa, dude, you're some weirdo, Mr. Low Tide hanging out on the beach. Go talk to the sea life. Go pet the waves. I'm going to run for it. She's got a car nearby.
Yeah. So he fills in the blanks and slaps her. Fully open-handed, across the face, slaps her.
She's just having a conversation. She's not expecting the slap. She's just talking like a normal human person to another human person, not expecting, this was the 60s, 70s, so she should have been expecting the slap.
Possibly. Especially from this random army guy on the beach, since this is right below Brady Field. So who else would an American be except random Air Force guy at 5 a.m?
It's quickly established that it's implied she has some money. She's vacationing for 6 weeks. She's with her uncle on this island. She's studied abroad. This wealthy woman gets slapped by an American army guy, and he'd be going to jail. Privilege has always been privilege. He would not have passed go. Army guy or not, he would have been locked up.
The phrase that pops out to me is when he tells her, "You belong to every man who longs to possess you." Like, he's mad that she has taken herself off the market because she's too hot for that. And when he's describing her, the language that Clive Cussler, uses is like, it leaps out as particularly dehumanizing, because it's not her legs and her breasts that he's describing, but the legs, the breasts. Like, they are just separate floating entities that he can describe, completely divorced from her, like, humanity as a person.
He's bringing a lot of baggage into the situation, and he's judging her for having been a widow. But he's already has all the presumptions.
Now, we established very briefly in Chapter 1 that Pitt's heart was just broken by the love of his life that he saw die in the waters just off Hawaii, which was the same adventure where Al lost 2 fingers. Now, that was from the first book he wrote, Pacific Vortex, which didn't get published yet. That comes out in book 4. So, like, there's also some history here that never got edited out. So, Pitt is also basically a widower. He's mourning his lost love, and he mourned her just long enough to meet another woman. And she should do the same.
From my experience with widowers, I think that's accurate. That actually tracks.
Yeah, where the guy just goes, okay, back on the market.
Yes. So, someone has to do my laundry. I've got to get remarried.
Oh, God. I just realized that's the beginning of the second Austin Powers movie, where he just, like, looks at the camera and goes, wait a tick, that means I'm single again.
Oh, I had a nervous breakdown during those movies. God, I hate them by proxy. Those were so terrible.
They are funny, but
Yeah.
they're horrible.
Yes, it's firmly established in Chapter 2 here. Dirk doesn't need a woman. He needs therapy. He needs some judicial measures to intervene. Maybe a program, a court-appointed type, to help him through his issues.
Yeah.
And I reiterate, no woman of privilege would have seen this hobo that has no visible outward signs of wealth. He's just a leather man, a raisin in the sun. He's a French dip, apparently. He's crusted with salt.
Yeah, so he waits for her to cry it out, and then she's all better, and then just the single sentence, Pitt took her.
Ew. That's ew.
That's kind of kidnappy, but all right. Whatever.
Oh,
That's what the hero does.
and it must have been wonderful. She sticks around after.
Yeah. So afterwards,
The
we finally get to the...
throes of passion solved her widowhood.
Yes. Oh, no. She's all better now. That was therapy.
That must be some powerful Dirking there.
Oh, God. Powerful Dirking. Please never use that phrase again. Although I think we have merch now.
I think I think we have a podcast title.
We're never going to settle on a podcast title. Every episode just has a different title. That actually might be something that I borrow from Dairy Public Radio, because each episode's title is from something that gets said offhandedly during the episode. So this might be episode 1, Powerful Dirking.
Oh, that's sweet.
Excellent. All right, so after they have beach sex, we finally get to some exposition, and it's really bang, 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 bang rapid. So he lies and says
Yes, he's being a lazy writer here.
Yeah, he lies and says
he's wrapping up some boxes with string and putting them out for under the tree.
We got to fast forward. He says he's the garbage collector, and he immediately gets invited to her rich German uncle's villa. And it's just coincidence that he's German, and Brady Field was just attacked by a German World War I biplane. There is no way to tie these two things together.
And he feels no need to mention that. It's a small area. I am in a small town right now. My dog was hit by a bus. And I swear, everybody in this zip code. Okay. He's angry.
Apparently.
Right. Can we pause this for a bit? You know what? Let's wrap it up here. We're at the end of chapter 2, the Dirkening. So let's put this one in the books, and we'll be less introverted next time.
All right.
We'll do some exercises. We'll go scream in a cave.
Man, I was really thinking we could get through the first half of the book in one episode. This might not be how this show works.
Well, it's been a blast so far.
Yeah. Don't worry, readers. We will work this out. I gotta go. Oh, all right.
Yes, we will.
Saying goodbye to my co-host right now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been Cussler Hustlers. Your hosts have been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Cussler Hustlers.